I'm just going to go commando in this one.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for tuning in to episode 38 of From the Middle. We are three middle-class guys living in the middle of America, in the middle chapters of our lives, with a point of view that's somewhere in the middle. I'm one of your hosts, Dillon, alongside hosts Kendall and Corey, and we are super stoked to be here.
Yes.
Do you ever feel like middle chapters of our lives is like sad?
No. We find ways to keep it fun.
This whole thing is sad.
For those of you watching, if you haven't watched us on YouTube, we're doing this episode shirts and skins.
Oh, I got to rephrase. I didn't mean, are the middle chapters of your lives sad? I'm saying, do you think it's sad that we say that? Oh, middle chapters, half over.
No, I don't think so.
No.
Okay, good. Yay!
It's a playful thing off of the from the middle and middle of all the stuff. And yeah, it's not sad.
Yeah, playful is good.
Yeah.
I'm the one who cried when I couldn't fit in my usual hiding spots because I realized I was growing up. So
That's
maybe
a good point.
Maybe that's why I asked the question. Anyway, life rips, guys. Life is awesome.
It's meant to be as fun and playful as every middle child experiences in there. Oh, well, maybe not that. Maybe not that one
Just
either.
three dudes in Ohio talking about stuff. That's who we are if you're just joining us for the first time. So thanks for tuning in. We are on YouTube. You can watch us there if you're more of a visual person.
We forgot to get YouTube to come down and tape this.
Oh, with their VHS camcorders.
Yeah, the guy with the thing on the shoulder that followed April and O'Neil around everywhere.
Yeah. I'll call him real quick.
All right.
Get YouTube over here.
We can get him over here.
Beep, bop, boop, bop, beep, bop, boop. Hello, this is YouTube. Yes, can I speak to the production department, please?
Why does he sound like the Monopoly guy?
The Monopoly guy has a voice?
In my head, it was that one.
Oh.
That you just did. Anyways.
I was trying to do an old-timey voice.
Oh.
Hey, see?
Yeah. YouTube.
First, there's a lady named Mabel who's got to pull the thing and connect it to the other thing.
One moment, please.
Yeah.
Anyways.
Where were we?
The intro.
Shirts and skins. That's right.
Shirts and skins.
Okay.
Yep.
Which we're all on team shirts, and Daniel Bryan is
Team Skins.
team skins.
Yes.
But I'm going to be wearing the Spanx next
The
week.
Yes Movement is back. The Yes Movement is back.
It is.
Yeah, it was gone for a while.
It was.
If
It
you're
was
not
the no movement for a while.
If you're not following the WWE, and Kendall and I have been, do we want to this? I think we've got room in this one. Do we want to give an update on
We've got
WWE?
all the time in the world. You cover whatever you want to cover.
Okay, so for funsies, on our Facebook page, I did a survey that said, seems like a lot of my friends are into UFC. Should I start watching? Or, because part of me wants to get back into WWE again, or should I just grow up and stick to the UFC? So I said, wouldn't it be fun if I did like a 2-week experiment where I start watching WWE? Well, that was months and months and months ago. And I've been watching every night of Raw, NXT, and SmackDown. And Kendall's been watching. You finally got caught up on Raw.
Yeah, so I went all the way back to January 2019 and watched all of the Raws because that's what I could do with Hulu. And then when I caught up to where I could then also start watching SmackDown, and I started watching both, alternating back and forth, and now I'm live and up to date.
Yeah. So the point is, we fell right back into it.
So easily too.
Very easy to fall back into it, I will say. All the nostalgia came back. So I grew up, Dillon and I watched, and I know Kendall watched in the Raw Attitude era, and even before then. But that was kind of really when we were watching a lot of it, is the Attitude era.
Yeah.
And man, we fell right back into it. All of it comes back. I said before, like a lot of the same archetypes are there, even though it might look like a different wrestler.
Right.
So it's been really fun. Do you want to just give a few thoughts on, as you've caught back up, like what you've enjoyed about it, and who some of your favorites are, maybe?
Yeah, so I mean, one thing that I know that I've said before that I still think remains true is that sort of the production value of it is high, but not what I remember.
Doesn't feel the same.
And I think that's legitimately because they don't have the money they used to have.
Yeah.
Right. They're not as pop culture as they once were.
They have said that their viewership is steadily declining and has been for a while. Yeah.
And so it makes sense that, that you're not seeing 18-wheel vehicles driving to the ring with any kind of regularity. Not that you saw it all the time then, but
cars exploding.
You saw it sometimes.
Backstage stuff.
And so there's some of that stuff now, but it's only on the pay-per-view events. Before, it was you saw that stuff on Raw.
Yeah.
Right. And you don't anymore. But even still, but all of the rest of it is still there. I also feel like and maybe we've talked about it before, but maybe it's just because I'm older and not as naive, maybe but I feel like the acting has gone downhill. But there's still a good handful that are really good at the playing the character part. But for so many of them, you can tell it's scripted, which is one thing that before in our day, the superstars were never scripted.
Yeah.
They were given direction, obviously.
Sure.
But when The Rock is up there ranting, that's stuff that he put together himself.
Yeah.
And a lot of it was ad-libbed and reactionary. Today, it's all script.
Yeah.
They're memorizing scripts.
And some of them can make that more believable than others.
Yes, and for many of them, it shows. Ronda Rousey.
Some of the promos are difficult to watch.
Yeah.
It's like,
but that doesn't keep me from getting involved in the soap opera of it all.
Oh yeah,
and loving it.
Yeah,
and like you said with the archetypes, like Undertaker always had like this dark feel, and coming into this like lights go down, and then Undertaker just appears and is this mysterious thing. Like they have an Undertaker today. He's just not called Undertaker, and he's way more demented, and than Undertaker was.
Yeah,
because he is a different character, but you still have that there's a dark character in The Fiend who, like, the lights go dark and then he shows up in the middle of the ring with no explanation.
He's like a cross between Mankind and Kane, I think, more than he is Undertaker. Aleister Black feels more like Undertaker because he comes up from that with the candles lit. Like Aleister
that's
Black,
a great point.
Yeah, but I get what you're saying. There's still those same kind of archetypes.
Yeah. So, and there's still obvious, like, you got a baby face that gets really popular, and then one of two things is going to happen. He's either going to own everything, which almost never happens, or he's going to turn heel.
Yeah.
That's the way it works, and that's the way it has worked. Like, and we've talked about this before too. They tried to do that with The Rock, and it didn't work with The Rock, and so they just rolled with it.
Yeah.
It's fun, man.
It is fun. It's fun to suspend disbelief, and sometimes that's harder than others.
Yeah.
We've talked about that before too. But so who are some of your favorites?
So Daniel Bryan, who my son bought me that for Christmas.
Yep.
I really like him. Becky Lynch, the man, is legitimately my favorite.
Yeah.
We're not talking female athlete. Like she all around.
Yeah.
She is my favorite. I think she's great at playing the character.
Yep.
She has an air about her.
Yep. Fans love her. I mean, the place erupts when she comes out.
I feel like she's the rare one, kind of like The Rock. And I feel like she's borrowing a lot of things from The Rock, and I loved The Rock, which is probably why I like her so much.
Some of the swagger. And
like, I mean, her catch line is when she first picks up a microphone in a city now is well, the man has come back around to Philadelphia.
Yeah.
Like that's what she says. And all the Rock fans are like, yeah, you took that.
Yeah.
But none of us care.
Nope.
She's earned it. She's one that I feel like they could make her, and I feel like they're maybe trying to right now. They're heading that direction, make her turn heel, and fans won't care. They will love her. I think so. I feel like that's the way that could work out with her. But I think that's the direction they're going.
I could see that.
I think they're going with the, success turns into power hungry, turns into
Who's the character, the action figure again?
That's Daniel Bryan.
The one with the thigh highs on?
Yes.
The boots? Great. Okay.
Yeah.
Just wanted to check.
Yeah. Yeah, it's fun to watch, and so some of my Raw favorite, I do like Aleister Black. I think he's pretty cool. I like Ricochet. I like Becky Lynch. And then in NXT, I really like Tommaso Ciampa. And then SmackDown, Roman Reigns is obviously cool, and he's related to The Rock, and the Usos are back, his cousins.
Yeah.
So he's got like 2 buddies that help him out, and he's a good guy, so everybody roots for him. And he seems to be a good guy in real life as well. Like he does a lot with
I'm sure they all
different charities, and that's not just saying anything bad about the others.
They're going to come get you, man.
Yeah, it's just fun, man.
Tell me whether or not you think this is real.
Yeah. And the cameos are one of my favorite parts.
Everyone loves a cameo.
Edge just came back. Goldberg came back the other night on SmackDown. Yeah. I thought he was going to fight, but he was just saying who he wants to fight next, which is The Fiend, who we mentioned earlier.
Yeah. Speaking of, like, there was who came back
for the Rumble.
Yeah. Well, the Fiend showed up to try to. I don't remember. There's a cameo that happened recently. You mentioned him earlier.
Oh, did I?
Kane.
Yeah.
Anyway, there's a Kane cameo.
And he talks now.
And that was...
I've been out of the game for a minute, and he talks now. And then you go, oh, he's like a senator or something. He's a politician for in real life.
Is he really?
Yeah.
No, wow. How about that?
And part of his platform is some little nod to his wrestling character.
Cool.
Yeah. Anyway.
I'm going to look that up. I didn't know.
Yeah. Super interesting. Anyway, sorry. That was a little WWE.
No,
detour.
I think I just felt how Kendall feels when we talk about Lego. I'm just looking at you both going, that's cute.
You guys are adorable. Hey, segue. Are we done talking about WWE?
Yes.
Owned by
Vince McMahon.
Also, Vince McMahon runs
the XFL. He sold not a bunch of percent of his stock. He sold a lot of money's worth of stock to help fund XFL.
Yeah.
Which is very interesting. Have you guys watched any XFL so far?
Yes.
We're a couple weeks in.
Nope. Go ahead. Yes. I'll be the odd one out.
Well, it's football. You know football. That's the one where they throw it and catch it and run with it.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, so it's that. It's just a different league now.
Okay.
We did talk about in the fall the decline of the AAF, the Alliance of American Football. That was supposed to have been a competitor to this. The AAF has died.
Right.
Rest in peace. And now we have XFL. And I have to say, I thought XFL was going to be like the first incarnation when it was around in the early 2000s.
Way different.
And be cheesy. It's way different. It's an actual football product.
Exactly.
Because their issues last time, they were trying to use the cheerleaders like up over the top to like lure fans.
Vince McMahon was making WWE with the football.
Right. And they didn't really have like that talented of athletes the first go around. This is an actual football product.
Right.
And it's been great to watch. I think what's fun, my wife was asking me like, what do you like about it? And I think I have no loyalties. There's 8 teams. There's 4 in the East, 4 in the West.
Yeah, there's
I don't
none
have
around
a favorite
us.
team. The closest ones would be the New York Guardians, DC Defenders, and St. Louis Battlehawks, I think.
Yeah.
Are the closest 3 teams.
Yeah.
So for me, it's fun to just kind of like tune in. There's some former Buckeyes out there, which I enjoy watching. Week 1, Cardale Jones had a great game as quarterback. So it's just been a lot of fun. Like, getting more football after the college and NFL seasons are over, and I'm excited to keep watching it. I'm just glad football's on TV still.
Yeah, and Cardale Jones isn't selling, Subarus in Central Ohio now.
Right.
He's actually playing football.
Yeah, so I don't remember all the locations of the team. That was 3 of them. There's Dallas, Houston, Tampa Bay, Los Angeles.
Oh, that's fun.
Seattle is the
Tampa
Dragons.
Bay.
Yeah, I think we
covered. Did you say Miami?
There's not a Miami.
Shut up, Corey.
I went out to their website today.
Oh, okay. You were actually guessing.
No, I
thought you were trying to...
Tampa
Bay.
Yeah, you said it.
Tampa Bay is the Vipers.
Yeah.
Yes. I went out to their website today and I read some of their mission vision, like why they're doing it. And what I did like is their very first one is fan first.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They want to make it a fan experience. They want to get people closer to the action. And then when you like deep dive into it, they want to make it super affordable. Tickets start at like $20. A family of 4 can have a whole day at a game for less than $100 if you include food.
Yeah.
So they're really trying to bring it and make it accessible for people. And I read through a lot of that, and they do show a map of all the locations and where all the teams are. But yeah, it was. I think it looks interesting.
And then we didn't mention there is a Team 9.
Yeah.
Team 9 as well.
I just learned about from you today.
Yeah. So I thought that was interesting. So Team 9 is essentially a full roster, less the special teams, that is sort of the minor league for the other 8 teams. So they won't play games, but they practice. They share facilities with one of the other teams. I think it's Dallas or Houston. I don't remember. But if somebody gets hurt or they need a replacement or a backup player or something, they can pull off of Team 9 like a minor league team. So
Yeah.
I thought it was kind of cool. Also, I was reading that Vince McMahon, in an attempt to distance the XFL from some of the politics that have made their way into the NFL.
Yeah.
I guess in their contract, they're not allowed to like do stuff like take knees for national anthems, or like they can do stuff in their personal time, but like the games are not time for politics.
Well,
because they're pushing back against some of those people that are upset with the NFL.
Yeah.
They're pushing back against the things. And I don't think it's that they don't want the players to have opinions on things, but it's like, look, the league, in this case McMahon and the investors, I'm sure they own all the teams.
Yeah.
This is like hey, this is our form of entertainment. We're not going to politicize it. Politicize, is that word?
Yeah.
We're not going to politicize it. This is a sport. You're going to show up, you're going to play the game, you're going to go home. What you do in your own time is yours.
Yeah. And what's super interesting about that, and even with what you mentioned with the 9th team, is for people who are listening and who are thinking, how does that work? Because we're all used to the concept of, in professional sports, of you have owners of individual teams,
right,
that have nothing to do with each other other than they've come together under the umbrella of NFL or NBA or whatever.
Right.
And
the people they hand the trophy to first when the Super Bowl is won.
Exactly. Yeah. So that's the owner of the team. And so they legitimately hire and fire. They have their own rules within the player association's agreement, and the owners agreement, the organization, and they are competing businesses, which is a legal term. If the NFL if all of the teams were owned by one entity, then now there is one business. There are no competing businesses. And now all of a sudden, it is not illegal to do certain things. For example, so if competing businesses were to all get together and say, we as an industry are only going to pay our employees this much, right? That's a conspiracy, or whatever the word it is they use in legalese. If the teams are not competing businesses, then all of a sudden that doesn't apply.
Yeah, because really the XFL in theory is competing against other sports that you could pay to go see.
Exactly. And so how that works then is now the XFL, and it makes sense for a small organization like this. For soccer fans, MLS started out very much like this as well, and has kind of branched out into something different today. But single entity business, or single entity sporting league, or whatever, is what MLS has been. But the XFL, so they have the ability to do things like the average player is going to get $55,000 and putting a cap of $500,000 of annual salary, and that's the way it's going to work for everybody. They have the ability to do things like controlled trades, and because there are no individual owners,
that's why they can do Team 9.
That's why they can do Team 9.
Yeah,
they can do whatever they want to do to try to make teams even. Mm-hmm. The downside of it, I think for most fans, would be obvious, and that like what they're seeing is that makes it difficult for you to kind of like feel like you have any kind of ownership over a team.
Right.
If that makes any sense. I don't know if that resonates with anybody at all.
Because you feel like they're really all one team,
because then it's like I'm just an XFL fan. Like I'm not.
Yeah.
There almost has to be a me versus them in order for fandom to work.
I think what helps is very few people will probably really deep dive into the behind the scenes.
Yeah.
So at the end of the day, it's going to feel like, oh, it's like I have an NFL team in my market and I'm going to root for him.
Right. Yeah. So, because what you can't do as a fan is expect your voice to be heard when you say the best quarterback is whoever, and I want them on my team. And then everybody makes a big stink. And then you expect an owner to open his pocketbook and make it happen.
Right.
That kind of thing wouldn't work. You don't have the feeling that kind of thing would work because all of the other fans of all the other teams are going to be doing the exact same thing.
Yeah.
So there's that, the single entity thing. But outside of that, I think I can look past that mentally, but it is a hurdle I have to get over, and I don't necessarily know why. I tried to explain it, but I don't even know exactly why myself that's a hurdle for me. But it is, like you said, for the fans. The original XFL had this feel of we're trying to make something that is a competitor to the NFL. We're trying to make something that's bigger and showier and more violent.
And gimmicks.
And gimmicks.
Yeah, it felt cheap.
Like it felt like that was when the NFL really started to enforce safety rules and new regulations and things. And at the beginning of that, a lot of NFL fans were like, well, now football's not going to be football anymore. And then here comes the XFL marketing itself as here's real football.
Yeah.
It's not that today. It's very much a players league outside of how much they're getting paid. And it's not meant to compete with the NFL, but in a way to feed it. And for there's a lot of players who will even tell you, and the XFL is okay with this, that they're using the XFL to try to get back into the NFL.
I think that was the thing about the AAF that I really liked. It essentially was they were working with CBS, which was the same station for the NFL games, a lot of the NFL games. And essentially it was known like this is an official tie to the NFL. And I think that's good. Like, look, if Cardale Jones plays well and can get on a roster, XFL just needs to own that they're not replacing the NFL anytime soon.
Right.
That doesn't mean they can't keep selling the product outside of the NFL season when, to be frank, a lot of us are desperate for some kind of good sports action.
Yeah.
Right.
And we don't always get that. Once March Madness is over, it's like, ugh,
Sure.
you're waiting for September.
Everybody needs to
around.
become a hockey fan like me, and then we can all talk hockey.
I enjoy hockey when I'm at a game. I don't necessarily need to watch it on TV, but I think for people like me, like I'm just glad football's on again, and I'll watch it in any form. And if that after the NFL ends, if the XFL picks up, then fantastic.
Yeah.
I'm gonna flip it on when I can and enjoy some football. And it felt like a football product. It didn't felt like wrestling turned football.
Right. Yeah.
So
Take Vince McMahon out of the picture. Like that's not what it is.
It's interesting you say that. So I mentioned their first two core values, fan first and ultra accessible. Their third is true to the game. We are faithful to the foundations of football, never different just to be different, no gimmicks ever. That's in their core values.
Yeah, and there's a good small handful of rule changes that I think make a lot of sense.
That's what I was going to ask. So are there
Honestly, there's
rules?
There's too many. There's a lot.
I don't think there's a lot. I think there's like 5 or 6 kind of big ones where they really changed the way a play works.
Trapdoors and stuff.
One of the biggest ones.
Hurdles.
It's like watching Gladiator.
One of the biggest ones from my point of view, well, there's a couple kickoffs, which I don't remember the exact rules for. I'd have to look it up again. But the other one, we're all familiar with, the kind of last 2 minutes of half,
Right.
where the clock keeps rolling, right?
Right.
In the end.
In the NFL, the last 2 minutes, the clock stops actually more often, I think. And the last
In this one, I think, and this is where I'm not a rules expert, so somebody can correct me. I think the clock stops until they're actually lined up, so where the NFL would be a little faster in the last 2 minutes.
Right.
This is slowed down a little bit because they actually want to see more offensive plays in the last 2 minutes. So until you actually line up, you don't have to do that sort of hurry up to spike it.
Right.
You can actually just get up to the line, call your play, and run it.
Yeah. And also running out the clock if you're an offense and you have a 10-point lead, taking a knee to take a minute and a half off the clock, that won't work in the XFL.
Right. And so there's a couple key rules like that. Kickoffs are one, the less than 2 minutes and a half. There's a couple big ones I'm aware of.
Yeah.
I have not read the rule book, so I'm not.
So the kickoff one I think is good. All of them I actually think are good. The kickoff one is before the ball's kicked and while it's in the air, there's only 2 people on the field who are allowed to move. That's the kicker and the person who's going to be catching the kick, right? So the returner. Everyone else is lined up 5 yards apart from each other, so they have 2 lines there, and no one's allowed to move until the ball is caught or 3 seconds after that it hits the ground. And there's a referee who has his arm up, and he'll lower his arm, and that's the go signal that you can go. And so that solves the issue of kickoffs being such a violent, injury-prone play, which has been the problem in the NFL and everywhere.
Yeah,
because you have giant, 300-pound guys who've been running for 30 yards, full head of steam at someone who has the ball. And so that's different. It also they the new touchback rules and things like that in the XFL are such that it doesn't make sense anymore for a returner to kneel it or take a fair catch. It makes more sense for a returner to try to return the ball, which is okay because it's much safer to do so now.
Yeah, well, and that's really important because what the NFL tried to do is they fixed it in the wrong way.
Exactly.
So XFL's getting it right. So what the NFL did was they said, well, if we don't want people to get hurt,
we'll make it boring.
Let's move it forward and then make it boring and nobody ever returns it.
Yeah.
When fans love watching the kick returns, it's exciting. And so I think the XFL did it in a way they're like, well, what if we slow down the speed with which the essentially defenders or the defense is running at the returner? Let's slow them down a little bit, give the returner a chance to make a play on the ball so we don't lose the play. We get the play, but everything's slowed down just a little bit.
Yeah.
And so I think that makes a lot more sense.
I'm doing some real-time fact-checking as you guys talk, and if you're interested, you can go to the website, and they list their rules. 5 gameplay innovations, so unique to XFL, 5 timing changes, and 5 what they call common sense rules, where they're building on the traditional values of football while preserving its authenticity.
Yeah, so like their definition of a catch is clearer than the NFL.
So the gameplay innovations are the kickoff that you mentioned, the point after touchdown. You can get 1, 2, or 3 points based on how far back you start.
Yeah,
punt, double forward pass, and then overtime. So those are the unique things. And
so
they have videos on the site that literally show an aerial view with X's and O's of how the rule is different, for those of our listeners that want to go check that out.
Yeah. So, I mean, outside of all the time stuff, because they do have a 2 minutes and after at the end of the half and at the end of the game. They have some different time rules there. And even during the gameplay itself, things are different. One thing that's cool is they have an official whose only job it is to spot the ball. That's all he does, and he keeps the pace of the game rolling because he's carrying a ball with him.
Oh yeah! And
then when a play is over, he spots the ball he's been carrying, grabs the other one, takes it over to the sideline, and they're ready to go.
Yeah.
They only have a 20-second play clock because of that, and the clock always starts as soon as the ball is placed, even if you get out of bounds.
Yeah, that's a huge one. A big complaint against the NFL. Again, the games take forever to watch on TV.
Yeah.
Well, you can't cut out the ad revenue because that's what pays for the thing, other than tickets and concessions. And so with a lot of these little cuts to how quickly things can change in the game, from what I understand, the XFL can be given a 3-hour time slot instead of potentially 3.5 or 4,
and have more plays.
And the 3-hour one would have more plays and would cover the amount of time required for overtime if necessary.
Right.
So they're saying 2.5 hours will be done.
The overtime rules are crazy.
Yeah, 2.5 hours. A normal regulation game is done. 3 hours if we have to have overtime.
Yeah.
So
but the extra point situation is what I think is for most people going to be like the biggest strategic difference. There is no such thing as a point after kick. You don't kick an extra point in the XFL ever. That's not an option. You will run a play, and I think it's 1 yard out, 5 yards out, 10 yards out.
10, yeah.
And so if you run a play from 1 yard out, you get 1 point. 5 and 10 yards out, you get 2 or 3 points. That adds a whole different strategy.
Fact check. It's 2, 5, or 10. For
2, 5, or 10
for 1, 2, or 3 points.
For 1, 2, or 3 points.
Okay.
I mean, think of that strategy right there.
Man,
yeah.
you're going to get
Like-
real good at some of those tight end slants for 10 yards.
So I mean, you
you've got
could
the player
potentially
for it.
score. So now all of a sudden, games are closer because you could score 9 points every time you touch the ball.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's interesting, and it feels weird because that doesn't feel like football, but I appreciate that this isn't the NFL testing it. This is a whole new league that can kind of do whatever they
That's
want.
a great point, yeah.
And so you get a chance to see how it plays out without having to potentially ruin, in quotes, NFL records and seasons by testing out weird rules. And I wouldn't put it past a bunch of NFL elites that they're watching how some of this plays out.
Oh, of course.
To see like, hey, maybe some of these, I don't know about the 1, 2, 3 points thing, but some of the other rule changes of like, this might be better for the league.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's been interesting to watch. I'm enjoying just kind of checking out all the teams and seeing who might win my allegiance.
I like,
They're competing for me.
Honestly, St. Louis's logo is my favorite, and so I just picked them.
The Battlehawks.
Yeah.
I did look at all the logos
Yeah.
Yeah.
What did you think?
as a designer.
I thought some of them looked cheap.
Yeah.
And
Some of them looked a little canned, but
the
it's fine.
Vipers for me was pretty cheap.
I mean, the Battlehawks logo is very simple, but to me,
That's
it
the wing and
has
the
like
sword.
the wing and the sword. But for me, it just has like an old school sports logo kind of feel to it.
Yeah.
I appreciate. I feel like it's clean and not cartoony. I guess I don't like the cartoony ones.
We'll probably share the logos and the link out so people can look at them.
Yeah.
What's your favorite, Corey? Just first glance, designer.
I do. I like
Graphic,
I didn't really look at them good enough to.
We're not going to hold you to it.
I like.
We're just going to bring it up.
I
when
think
you
the
change your
Battlehawks.
mind.
Yeah, that's pretty sweet.
Nice.
if there was an initial
The Vipers is the cheapest.
If there was
one.
an initial
Yeah.
tug of war over my allegiance, it's going to be between the New York Guardians and the DC Defenders.
Okay.
I love that somebody used a dragon because that's not typical.
That's my wife's favorite.
You don't
It's the
see a
dragon.
lot of dragons, so I appreciate that. I actually really thought Houston, they're the Roughnecks. I thought it was the Oilers.
Yeah, yeah.
I was like wild that they use that, but it's
Right.
not. It's the Roughnecks. So, it's just a lot of fun. I'm glad to have football back, and hopefully it's a fun season. If it goes well, I hope they add a couple more teams over.
They will.
Well, I was even
another
hoping by next season, but I don't know
Maybe
if, it'll
if
be
it
that
goes well
quick.
enough.
If it goes well enough, yeah.
One big thing too about it being being a single entity business is that if it takes off in the future, it makes it much easier for Vince McMahon to sell it off to someone who's going to take it and run.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you can't. You would have to get 8 different owners to agree to that otherwise.
Yeah.
But since it's not just him; it's a group that owns it all. But
Sure.
But yeah, no. So he could. It makes it much easier for it to grow in someone else's hands if it gets to that point.
Yeah. I read something about the markets that they chose. They were looking at former XFL markets, and then the AAF had jumped into some of those markets.
Right.
And St. Louis is the smallest of all the markets that they chose for the XFL. And typically, they said part of the strategy with the AAF was finding popular non-NFL cities to compete.
Right.
There was an interesting statistic when they were looking at the teams for the AAF. They said the smallest AAF city was less than half of the smallest XFL market. So, which I think was Birmingham Iron or whatever that team was in the
nobody remembers.
AAF. Yeah, it's all gone. But they very clearly said, we don't care. We're going to be in major markets because that's where TVs and eyeballs are.
Yep.
And I think that was the right move. And, over time, they can figure out what next tier markets look like to them. I think it would be cool if Columbus got a team eventually, or Cleveland, Cincinnati, any of them really. But I hope they expand it. I think it could be a lot of fun, and it's a much better product than I was expecting at the onset, because I was expecting the first run of that, which was
I saw a documentary one
cheesy.
time that was like the XFL was a venture between Vince McMahon and NBC, and he had everybody at NBC Sports who were trying to make it into kind of closer to what the XFL is now.
Yeah.
Vince McMahon was kind of on board with that, but he had this attitude behind it that he thought was actually absolutely a must in order for this thing to get off the ground. And so he wanted that WWE kind of attitude behind it. And And the famous moment that I've used a couple of times, like before the first game starts, he takes a microphone, marches out to the 50-yard line, and just growls into the microphone, "This is the XFL." Like, that was unscripted. Nobody at NBC Sports knew he was going to do that. He thought he was making the marketing decision that was going to make this thing. And when all was said and done, people were citing that as the moment, like, nope, this definitely is not what we were hoping it was going to be. This is a sham. And so a lot of people pointed to that moment as the jump the shark moment for the original XFL. And now it seems like Vince McMahon has learned his lesson.
Well, he put a lot of money into it the first time, and he's put considerably more this time.
$500 million of his own money he's pledged to this thing.
Yeah, he sold however much stock to try to get it there. So, yeah, I hope, like I said, it's not trying to overlap directly with the NFL. It's not really even a direct competitor. I mean, there's Canadian Football League, there's Arena Football Leagues. Right. This feels more like that. It's okay to let the NFL be the Premier League, and then the rest of us can enjoy cheaper football in a different part of the year.
Yeah.
And I'm totally fine with it. So anyways,
with some innovative rules.
I'm still making a case for trapdoors, and I think we should put no, listen, hear me out. I think at every corner, so the corner of the back of each end zone.
Right.
You have a turreted gun where, like in American Gladiator, the TV show, the fans are allowed to try to shoot players with like Nerf ball or tennis balls. And there's got to be one other obstacle. What else could we? Trapdoors, tennis ball guns, and
hot lava.
Yeah, lava at the 50-yard line that you have to jump across.
Or just Lego bricks. That's cheaper than
Lego bricks and
it's
no
all
shoes.
it's all barefoot.
Barefoot with Lego bricks.
What if you literally gave everybody with their ticket on their way in the door, everybody got one Nerf ball? Exactly one. And you had to use it at your discretion
at a very strategic time.
And it is you can consider it either a block or a tackle. If you hit a defender with one, if a defender gets hit with one, they have to lie down. If you hit the ball carrier with one, the play's dead. And everybody in the stands gets only one of those balls, so either all, like, if
we could all work together.
If everybody in the stadium waited until the last play of the game just in case it's a big deal, like, they could kill a play right then and there because everybody would get hit with one.
Or the first bad call, they're going to kill a ref because everyone's chucking it at the ref.
But then it's a
Nerf ball.
But then they've wasted their Nerf ball, right?
Well, maybe.
I mean, we're trying to teach our kids things like this.
Yeah.
How fun was American Gladiator to watch, by the way?
Yeah.
That felt like such a cool show at the time.
It was.
So was like Legends of the Hidden Temple on Nickelodeon.
That was not such a cool show, even at the time.
What was the other obstacle course show on Nickelodeon? Was it that?
Secrets of the Hidden Temple.
Anyway, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know.
That was it.
Okay.
Oh, boy.
So the XFL. I have some bad news that I thought I would share.
Oh.
I had to pick a new local pizza joint.
What happened? You lost Megadesk last week.
Yeah. So
you lost your pizza place this week.
So we talked about a long time ago how important it is to have that kind of local non-chain pizza place, right?
Right.
So last time I ordered it, and we got it. It was thin crust, like a thin, crispy, crunchy crust, which is, as we've established,
not your thing,
not my kind of thing. And they've never had that kind of crust, so I thought that's weird. Okay, this was a one-off. So I called them back to order the other day, and I said, "Hey, question. Last time, this might sound weird. Last time I got your pizza, it was like thinner, like a thin, crunchy. Did you guys switch to like thin crust?" They're like, yeah, bake's better for us. I was like, "Oh, so you have multiple kinds of crust now?" They said no. That was their only kind.
They made the switch.
They made the switch from hand tossed to a thin, crunchy, crispy, saltine.
Which is
crust.
if you're not familiar with Columbus, Ohio, is what most of the local places make.
Right.
People around here like to call it Columbus style pizza. and they're idiots.
I got corrected that that's the cut, not the type of crust.
Well, even whatever.
But I think it's both, and they're both terrible.
They're both in their, yeah. I'm with, well, I wouldn't say they're both terrible. I wouldn't go that far. I still like them.
Sorry, relative to good pizza, they're terrible.
Well, even there, I've never met a pizza that I was like, I'm not eating this.
I know, and that's actually, so my wife thinks I'm pretentious about pizza, and I'm like, so here's the thing though, I'll eat anything. I'm very particular in my private opinion of the pizza.
There you go.
Now in this case it's public, but I'm particular about it privately.
Sure.
But I would never
there's a
complain.
microphone in front of your face.
But until I have a microphone. Hey, I'm not calling out the name of the business, all right? But like, yeah, it's just my preference. Now, if somebody hands me insert generic chain pizza because that's what they have at their house, I'm going to eat it, right? It's what's there. But like, I'm going to go home and unsolicited, I'm going to tell my wife what I thought about it.
Sure.
And so, yeah, I was bummed. I really loved it. And now I'm never going to order from there again.
I think you and I are basically on the same page with pizza preferences. Like New York style is what I want.
Right.
That's what I... Yeah.
For those of you in your cubicle or in your car listening going, man, I really want to hear a full episode on these guys talking about their opinions on pizza. We've already done that.
We did it.
So episode 8, if you go back...
We've got time still.
Oh, I know. I am not stopping this gold. I'm just letting people know that if they want more of this gold, episode 8... and we've actually had a request from one of our middlers, Ashley, who wants to hear Dillon talk more about food.
That is true.
So
I'm so thrilled.
So anyway, have you landed on a new place yet?
So that is, if there's a redeeming part of the story, my wife said, why don't we try this other place? I've always liked it. Well, I think we'd had it before or something, and my brain just didn't associate it with good experience.
Yeah.
So I asked online in this group that, can chime in on on types of pizza.
You asked for pizza opinions?
Yeah.
At a pizza connoisseurs group.
Knowing that I was going to get a bunch
in Central Ohio, a bunch of people who love the cracker crust.
Right. And I had to say, like, okay, don't, end my existence over this, but I don't like this kind of pizza. Somebody guide me to the right kind of pizza, and somebody eventually weighed in with a very helpful picture and said, try this place. This is what their crust looks like. And and I was like, yes, that's what I'm looking for.
Yeah.
So it was the place that my wife had said. I called and said, do you guys have thin crust, or what kind of crust? And she said, yeah, we have thin crust. I said, well, that's what I don't want. So do you have something that's not that? And she said, yeah, that's our standard crust. And I said, perfect.
Yeah.
Sold. Bring me that and salad and wings.
Yeah.
And it was great. And Corey, I thought I would bring this up. It tastes a lot like Padroni's pizza from Ada, Ohio, and now
Ada.
around Lima area, which we've talked about before.
Yep. In episode 8.
In episode 8. And so it was cut Columbus style, which is that long sort of strips from the center of the pizza to the edges.
So not like a pizza. God intended a pizza to be cut.
It was not cut
into triangles.
Pie style. It was cut. So I'm going to call him next time, and I'm going to say, I want regular cut or regular crust, pie cut.
Yes.
With these toppings, and I bet it's going to be perfect.
Yeah.
And
congratulations.
So I found another new local place that hasn't made the switch to the worst kind of pizza that exists, which is saltines with ketchup. So I'm very excited.
Saltines with ketchup.
It's what it is. Convince me otherwise. So that's a little bit of, we didn't do updates at the beginning of this episode.
I have a good segue for that.
We talked about men and thigh highs.
I have a good segue.
Okay.
So the night you're about to mention, that night I watched your daughter, my niece.
Different night. We got Donato's that night.
No, I'm talking about this.
About to mention, this is a segue.
This is called a segue.
Oh, I thought you meant the pizza night.
That's not what I meant. That's not what I meant. That's not what I meant. That's not what I meant.
We're still learning how podcasts are.
Podcasts are. Yeah. You got a pizza that night since I was babysitting, and you guys were going to go out on the town.
Yes.
You don't have to say where that was from, but that sauce was way too sweet for me.
Did I already say?
Was it from around here?
Did I already just say it?
I don't like a sweet.
Just said it.
I don't like a sweet sauce.
Was it one of our local places here?
It's a chain.
It's a chain.
It's a chain.
It rhymes with schmanados.
Oh,
Yeah.
Donatos.
Yeah. So
Why are you worried about like? Oh, we accidentally ruined Donatos' business, and they went bankrupt because the three of us.
Well, we've done
said
that to
their
other places.
Well, here's-
said
okay.
their sauce was too
Here's
sweet.
why I'm asking: did they change their sauce?
Oh, I don't know.
Because that was way sweeter than I like Donatos.
Well, so if we get Donatos, not obviously fans of thin crust, because
Right.
if you get thin crust, it's cold literally instantaneously when you take it home. We get the hand tossed pizza from there, but something
The
about
hand toss is disgusting from there.
No, the hand toss is good, but something about
Wrong.
it always the flavor's just it's just
Yeah,
off.
yeah.
And I can't quite peg what it is.
the sauce, too
I don't know
sweet.
if it's a seasoning.
I think there's a certain sweetness. There's like an old world sauce that I've heard that terminology thrown around out there, which is kind of like a spicier, kind of
marketing
deeper kind
baloney.
of sauce. There are some sweet sauces out there that I really like. There's also sweet crusts out there that I really like. Planks Cafe is when my wife and we used to live downtown.
Yeah.
Columbus, and Planks Cafe over near German Village was hands down our favorite place. And the crust itself, oddly enough, is almost like eating a donut. Like it's that sweet. It's so
Now I just want a
I could
donut.
see a lot of people being turned off by it. We loved it. So do a lot of people. They're a very popular place. But no, Donato's I don't think has changed much.
Okay. So anyway,
Recently.
too much on pizza for sure. Definitely need to stop doing that. But also, where did you guys go that night?
Well, you very kindly some free tickets came up to the Lumineers. They were performing at the Schottenstein Center, which is in Columbus, Ohio.
Thanks,
If you're-
Chad and Katie.
If you're listening from outside of Columbus, Ohio, we know it here as the Shot. The Lumineers were performing. And you very kindly offered to watch our daughter and sugar her up with some donuts while we were gone.
I messed her up.
And my wife and I went to the concert, and it was a great time. I wasn't. In fact, you posted on social a little while back that we went a photo from our seats. But the opening acts were okay. I like their stories more than their music. Maybe we'll share some of that. But the Lumineers concert itself was fantastic. They did a really great job, and I'd never seen them live. I would never have put them in like a list of favorite artists for me or anything like that. I don't know that I probably still would, but I significantly more appreciate the musicality and lyrics and everything, their music videos and everything that they do to make a package that is their music.
Yeah.
This is their album 3, by the way.
Yeah, the tour for that album. And so it was a really good show. I've enjoyed listening to them a little bit more since, now that I can hear the lyrics. Because it's tough in a huge stadium, and they're very, very good. And so I'm glad to have gone. It was a great time. We love our daughter, but it was a nice night out, and it was a great show. So we were super appreciative. But
For those of
they
you
put on
that
a
have
good show.
listened to us regularly, I learned all about Blippi.
Oh,
Yeah.
man, yeah.
I had never seen a Blippi video, and I think I saw all of them on the night they were out.
Oh, you saw all of them, eh? Even the old ones.
Not that, not his early work.
the deep cuts.
Yeah, I heard his early work's kind of crappy, but I watched his new stuff, and but we had a really good time.
She loves those Blippi videos,
Man,
dude.
she does.
Yeah, and the best part was you texting random phrases that you couldn't decode.
Oh, that was so cute.
You couldn't quite decode what she was saying, and she's probably looking at you like, I don't know why you don't
And
understand.
I'm wheezing laughing because her looking at me like you should know what I'm saying.
Yeah.
And I'm cracking up laughing with tears in my eyes going, I don't know what it was. Pippi Pinecone. I don't know what Pippi Pinecone is. So I'm like, do I bother them? This is their date night. And I'm like, hey guys, I'm sorry, but what's Pippi Pinecone? And they're like, oh, it's Blippi. He does this thing called sink or float. And I think at one point he puts a pine cone in the water to see if it sinks or floats.
Yeah.
So it's
Yeah.
not called that. She just calls it that because there's a pine cone. I'm like, oh, it's Blippi. But it was Pippi
Yeah.
pine cone. There was something else that was funny.
There's also typically Paulween, which is Blippi Halloween.
Oh,
and she
she's
says
putting it all-
Paulween.
Paulween.
There's that one
Oh,
too.
man,
but-
we had so much
She's a
fun.
cute kid.
I loved hanging out with her.
Yeah, well,
it was
thanks.
great.
Yeah, it's good. You saw the Lumineers at the Shot a couple years ago, right?
No, saw them at Nationwide. Yeah,
Oh.
but yeah, we saw their Cleopatra tour. Some very generous friends. They got really nice floor seats, but couldn't go last minute. And they're like, "Do you just want to take our tickets?" And so we got really good floor seats to see him. I really like them. So I kind of put them in the Mumford and Sons kind of like early Mumford and Sons. Not Mumford and Sons have changed a lot. They used to
still
be
have the same feel.
Same
they're
kind of
electric
feel
now, but they're they're not even all electric.
If you like the acoustic instruments and the really tight harmonies, and the sort of hipstery kind of old style, they've gotten a little bit away from that, where the Lumineers kind of maintain some of that. What I like most about the Lumineers is their storytelling. And on the Cleopatra album, they had 3 music videos, separate songs, separate videos. But the videos, in a very unique way, and I don't want to give it away, all tied into one another. It was like a continuation of a story and a character. The new album 3, all 10 songs are actually one kind of long connected story. So you can watch through the music videos, and it all tells a 10-part story.
I love those kinds of
Some of it's
albums.
dark, like some of it's pretty dark, and like marriages breaking up and alcoholism and mental health. But it's really, I love that. I love combining different art forms to tell stories. And so it's a music album, and people don't even know that this whole other part of it exists. So then when they discover the videos, they go, oh, it's like a whole story. And it's pretty cool. So I'm a Lumineers fan. They're up there for me.
No, there's some cool storytelling through music, and then storytelling through whole albums is something that I've always loved.
I feel like we've lost that.
I want to. It happens sometimes now, but not as frequently as it used to.
Well, because now we pluck individual songs.
We buy the songs we want. We don't have to buy the albums, which I always buy albums.
Yeah.
There's good and bad to that.
I like to, and that's probably never going to change for me. So even if there's one song I hear from one artist that I want, I buy the album that it's on, and then I stream the whole album.
Yeah.
I sit there, I listen from track 1 through track 10, whatever.
And some of them were very intentionally designed to be heard that way.
A lot of it is designed to be that way. I appreciate it when it is. It makes the experience much more immersive when an album is put together thoughtfully. But like, there's still bands that do that and groups that do that, artists who do it, but not as frequently as once was.
Yeah.
Coheed and Cambria are. Yeah. I mean, they're beautiful at like. You can listen to one Coheed song and think that's cool. You listen to a Coheed album and you think it's beautiful.
Yeah.
It's amazing. Me Without You is another one of my favorite bands.
Because it feels like one long story that you're telling me.
Yeah.
As opposed to 10 individualized.
I mean, you take one of their songs that was amazing by itself, but then you put it into a context, and you see how it's bridging gaps and yeah, I like it. I appreciate it. I have cried more than once listening to complete albums because of that kind of thing.
Because you're taking on the ride.
Exactly.
Yeah, I think iTunes gets a lot of flack for starting to dismantle that idea of a story throughout an album. But I think with the accessibility of ways to listen to music, that started to change. Like, I worked in audio for a long time, and I would talk to people that were some of the first people literally building home stereos. Like, I was there with when the first preamp and amp and all this got merged into this, and and all of this technology was becoming more common. But when you get this discussion about the sweet spot in regards to a home stereo or home theater, that's where that came from. It was the chair placed perfectly in the center between 2 speakers aimed directly at the chair, and people sat and listened to a whole album because that was what you were doing.
I mean, people would do that on dates. Like, do you want to sit and listen to an album with me?
Right.
Like, if you said that to somebody now, I think you'd get laughed at.
Yeah, and then you started getting cassettes and CDs and the ability to really fast forward and rewind and skip, and I don't think it was really single-handedly iTunes. Well, the cool thing is you have much more access to music now, and it's everywhere, and I can literally shuffle, the top 50 songs in a country, with the touch of a button, and I can have it in my whole house, playing across 6 speakers in a second. So it's cool. We consume a lot more. It's this ambient background to our lives, but we're significantly less intentional with how we listen to it.
Yeah.
So there's good. It always feels like there's good and bad there.
Which is funny. That's interesting. Because for me, like, music is never an ambient thing for me. It's always, music for me is always, this is what I'm doing for right now.
Yeah.
So like, I can't have music in the background, like if I'm trying to work at all, because it will distract me.
Yeah.
I can't get it, like, because I will stop and listen.
Yeah, you're definitely the cool exception in this case. Most people, it's like, hey, voice activated speaker, play this album, and they're doing dishes or folding laundry, or they're working on their computer or whatever. And I'm guilty of that. I throw on headphones at work and just shuffle playlists on Spotify or something.
Because I like the mood music can put me in sometimes, and kind of let it guide. And so like it had been suggested to me, like, get more into classical music or electronic music or whatever. And same thing happens. If I'm listening to classical music,
that was going to be my question.
I stop and listen to
So it doesn't matter if there's lyrics or not.
It doesn't matter if there's lyrics.
Yeah.
So that's apparently irrelevant.
Huh.
Like I will stop and start like trying to pick out parts.
Interesting.
And be like, oh, that was an interesting thing that I just heard from the cello. I want to try to follow the cello around a little bit.
For me, it depends on what I'm doing. Like if I'm drawing, I can have lyrics. If I'm writing and typing, I can't.
Okay.
So like if I'm writing words or whatever, I'm hearing the lyrics and it's messing with my
right.
my inner.
Yeah, I can see that. Yeah, that's why someone had said to me, try classical music, and I did, and it doesn't work for me.
Yeah.
But if I'm drawing, it's fine because I'm not seeing letters
exactly.
in my head.
Do you have a top couple concerts you've been to, either of you?
Mm-hmm. Go ahead. You start.
Best ever, Garth Brooks. Hands down.
Where was it? What year?
The Shot and Scene Center.
Shot.
This was like 3 years ago.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Within the last few years.
So he still got it.
Old guy. He still has it. Best show I've ever been to. His the single coolest encore performance that I've ever seen. So he's Garth Brooks. He has his whole band that he's been touring with for forever.
Right.
Which is impressive. How long that band has been together. But his encore performance was he literally came out just him and a guitar and took requests. And that was his encore. And I loved that. I thought it was cool.
That's awesome.
So that was that. Another one that was probably the most memorable and close second to that Garth Brooks concert was my favorite band, Five Iron Frenzy. So this was in 2009 maybe or so. They had announced a year prior that they were retiring, and so they had put out an album called "The End Is Near," which was their what was going to be their last. They came back 10 years later and put out another album. That's why I'm kind of using weird words here. But so let's pretend that the new album didn't happen. "The End Is Near," their last recorded album. They put that out, and then they toured that for a year. And then they put out, after that tour was over, they put out an album called "The End Is Here," which was a live album anyway. And so but this whole thing, the Five Iron Frenzy, like a good handful of bands, was never huge nationally. They had a couple of moments that were big because the wave of ska came in, and they happened to have horns, even though, as we've talked about, they weren't really a ska band. But people mistook them as such. But they had a massive, very loyal cult following, and so for that year of that tour, they were all working up toward this big final show, and they were saying, hey, they were a heavy touring band. I've seen them many times in Central Ohio because of how often they toured, and they're like, we come out and see you a lot. How about you all come to our town and watch us for our final show? And so they put it that way. My sister bought me a plane ticket to go.
Wow.
and for my birthday, and she came too, and then a couple of our friends went, and so we flew out. Denver, Colorado is where they were. The Fillmore in Denver, which is a very popular venue there. They sold, like, this little podunk band, Five Iron Frenzy, sold out the Fillmore, which was a huge deal. Like, it was like, at that time, like, Jessica Simpson had performed the weekend before. She didn't sell it out.
Wow.
Five Iron, the only band from Denver to sell out the Fillmore, the only act from Denver to ever sell that place out.
Wow.
And so we went, and that was just, it was a fantastic experience. Not even just that the trip was involved, but like my favorite band who, like, I was a fanboy of, like, this was their last show when I was there.
Absolutely.
And they were recording it for this live album. It was really cool. It you know, had one of those moments where it was like, you know, they don't do encores famously. They never did. But the show still just kind of kept continuing, and they would come out. They came out and they did some stuff kind of a cappella and did some different things. And like, the venue closes at a certain time, and the promoter for the show gets not fined, but extra charges put on his tab by the venue for being over time, and it's like a tiered situation.
Yeah.
And they kept announcing it from the stage. They're like, all right, well, this is going to be $150 extra bucks. All right, now we're up to $300 extra for this. So kind of felt bad for the venue employees,
Right.
But it was like everybody, including the band themselves, were just like, we don't want this thing to end. It was cool.
This is the Fillmore Auditorium.
The Fillmore Auditorium
In Denver has a capacity of almost 4,000.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's a big concert.
Yeah.
It's pretty cool. Corey, do you have any favorites?
This will tell you how much I don't go to concerts that often. That's honestly a big regret. Like, right now I could tell you 5 people I really want to go see live. It's just, I don't look at when they're coming, and then it's, you know, whatever.
Sure. Yeah,
So I wish I did it more often. But in high school, we went and saw Bon Jovi at Nationwide Arena, and the Goo Goo Dolls opened for him.
Cool.
Which was pretty sweet because the Goo Goo Dolls were huge then. But Bon Jovi was awesome, and even then he was already like an older guy and nonstop for, I think it was a 2-hour. He didn't take a break. Richie Sambora shredded. The whole drum kit like lifted up at an almost 90-degree angle from the stage. Yeah. So there was kind of some fun gimmicks. And then I know this one's campy and people are going to roll their eyes, but as a show choir boy, I love Josh Groban.
Okay.
And so we went and saw Josh Groban at the Germain Amphitheater when that was still around.
Yeah.
So it's at night in the summer, and you're sitting out on the lawn listening to Josh Groban sing. Yeah. And it was like, man.
I was there. That was a really good show.
It was a good show. That was his closer tour, I think. And
that sounds right.
Yeah. We saw Michael Bublé once.
That's I've seen Michael Bubble 2 times at Nationwide.
I saw him at Nationwide once.
Oh, he's such a good
schmoozer
in all the right ways. And I think he comes out, you know, he's had a couple drinks backstage.
He's very loose.
He's very loose when he comes out on stage, but man, he puts on a great show. And
he does.
Ending every concert with a song for you, where it's like the band drops out and it's just him, and he doesn't use the mic, and he's just trying to like sing to the whole stadium.
Yeah.
It's real good. Yeah, I love it.
I want to go see Chris Stapleton. That'd be fun. That dude's voice is insane.
Yeah.
I want to go see Nathaniel Rateliff and the Night Sweats. I don't even know if they're still recording now, but like I love their stuff.
Gregory Porter, man. I want to see Gregory Porter in concert. Dude's got a whole band behind him that's just awesome. I love that guy.
Anyway. Yeah.
All right. That was my question. Best concerts. Now we know. We're planning on doing an episode about some family crazy anecdotes. So you've got those. Leave us a voicemail, send us a message, a tweet, a direct message, email from the middle at protonmail.com. Send us your stories. You don't have to, you can keep them anonymous or write them in a way that it's just your kooky uncle or whatever. But we would love to hear your stories because we think that would be a fun and funny episode. So send them in and we'll talk about them as we share some of our stories all at the same time. So reach out to us and let us know what stories you got.
And if you're okay with us using your voice, in the description of this episode on Apple Podcasts will be a link where you can record up to 60 seconds of your own voice in a voice message that we can use on the episode. And those are really fun for people. We've even gotten feedback the last couple weeks that people really like it when people either call in. I'm calling it call in, even though it's a recorded voice message. Or like when we called Dan, it's just good. Makes it feel like there's another layer of engagement. So we would love to use those stories. We're going to make it fun. We're not going to make anybody feel bad. It's just more about funny little quirky family stories. And we would love to include as much of yours as possible.
Indeed. You can also mail or fax those things to us. The way you would do that is you would mail it to your grandson, asking him to send us an email.
Yeah.
Or you could fax it probably to his work. And have him bring it in. Corey
Speaking of mail,
showing you a sticker there.
Speaking of mail, and if you're on YouTube, we've still got a limited supply of our From the Middle vinyl decals. Those are available to you. There's instructions on how to do that through PayPal to get a set of 5 or
whatever.
Or 10.
And we'll mail them to you. Special deal. I haven't talked to the guys about this right now, but if you want us to fax you stickers, we'll only charge you half price.
Right.
Faxed stickers are half price.
That's fair. I'm fine with that.
Okay.
All right. That's it. That was episode 38.
Thanks for listening, guys. We appreciate you going on this journey with us. We keep evolving. We're almost to 50 episodes, if you can believe it, and we're just having a lot of fun. So we're going to keep it going and keep engaging with you. And we want this to be your podcast. So the more you interact with us, the better. But we appreciate that you've listened thus far, and it means a lot to us that you care enough about our silly conversations. The whole thing here is that you feel like you're a part of the conversation. And so we hope that that's how you feel. We hope you enjoy us on your commute or in your cubicle or whatever. And thanks. We really do appreciate it.
Amen.
Jesus.